Today, we give thanks for our fantasy leagues. Where do you stand? We're going to talk all about it and break down Turkey Day. The Manchild Show with Boy Green live starts right now.
Let's go! It's time for the talk to you. 'Cause when it comes to sport, it's always coming through. If Boy Green is always on the scene, it was gonna always bring to life singing. So get ready, get ready, 'cause here they come.
A little weird music interlude there. It's okay, Boy Green. Don't worry about it. I know we missed the trail there a little bit. Welcome aboard, everybody. Happy live show Tuesday? What the heck is going on? This is our usual Friday live show. It's our fantasy football segment, and Joe Bartel from RotoWire will join us in just a second. By the way, today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Box Drop, the mattress and sofa outlet. Boy Green with me, though, from the family estate up in New Hampshire. He's on the road for Turkey Week, so thus we're having this situation. And by the same token, we are talking fantasy football on a Tuesday because we want to get you ready for all these big games. 3 games on Thursday and another game on Friday. And then, of course, we have the whole weekend. And my Giants won't even take to the field, Boy Green, until Monday night. So I'll have the ultimate weight there on that thing.
Oh, wow.
All right,
Yeah.
well, let's bring him in from RotoWire.com. He's our fantasy insider. We'll welcome him in for Turkey Week, the one, the only Joseph Bartel. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well. I thought Boy Green had to relocate after how bad Syracuse lost to Notre Dame. I thought that was one of those things where he's live at that game and felt so ashamed at the performance that had to just go somewhere completely else. I mean, that makes sense. I understand.
Boy Green, actually a Notre Dame fan. He
Actually-
Notre Dame geared, and he's a Notre Dame fan.
No, his
before
dad's a Notre
Syracuse,
Dame fan.
apparently.
That doesn't really count. No,
Oh, does it? I don't know.
The
Does he?
dad's a Notre Dame fan who's actually dedicated. Boy Green just picks whatever allegiances feel best for
No,
him.
that's
So yeah, no, yeah.
Other than the Jets, that's the
no.
Jets and the Celtics. That's pretty much where he goes. Is wherever the heck the wind is blowing. I'm used to that from my old.
That might be true.
All right. Well, this is a special
Yeah.
week, Joe. And I wonder from a fantasy perspective, you know, we have talked a lot this season about Thursday night games and what Thursday night games can bring. And now we get 3 Thursday games and a Friday game. So a lot of teams playing on short rest, on short preparation. What, if anything, does that mean to the world of fantasy? Let's just start with that general question.
Yeah, not that it gets any easier, but the Cowboys obviously and Lions have been doing this for decades. I would imagine the cadence for those players is pretty similar around this time of the year. The Packers actually, I think, have been on Thursday 3 of the past 4 years as well too, so that shouldn't be anything different for them. I don't know. I mean, like the Chiefs, I think we're even on. I mean, they've had a lot of weird scheduling too with the Christmas games and past at Netflix, and so I actually don't know if it's going to really make a difference other than the injuries. I'm not sure if you saw the injury report for the Lions Packers, but I think between the two is in the range of 34 or 35 people on Monday. Now that can obviously change, and I think especially the Packers just put everyone on there and then kind of let it kind of erase as the week goes on. But that would be my bigger concern, and I think there's a few key injuries like T. Higgins, for example, already been ruled out for the Bengals. They're the nightcap for I think a really good Thursday slate of games overall, and we know that Joe Burrow will likely be making his return. So like it's gonna be that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, if you're traveling like I am on Tuesday and on Wednesday, it really is going to be pertinent to make sure you're checking your lineups beforehand because that Thursday game sneaks up on you, the fantasy player, but also the injuries that you might not be aware of are going to be an impactful part of it too.
Impossible question here, Joe. We love asking you those questions. Joe Burrow. What the hell are we supposed to expect from Joe Burrow? The name Joe Burrow is amazing and leads to a lot of things directly for Jamar Chase, who's coming off the suspension. And you mentioned T. Higgins in his injury situation. But this is also a guy who hasn't freaking played in months. So what kind of Joe Burrow are we going to get from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, it's stupid in my mind that Burrow is playing in this one. Bengals have no chance of making the playoffs. I don't know why they're doing this. But I'm assuming it's going to be more or less the guy that we anticipated at the beginning of the year, which was a top 6 fantasy quarterback. Ravens defense is better post-bye. They've gotten a lot healthier, which is going to make a big difference. and it's only Jamar Chase, but you could still pepper Jamar Chase with 20 targets. We have seen that earlier this year as well, too. And I kind of like Tinsley a little bit, who got the touchdown towards the end of that game. And then they have, of course, the Yoshivas, who at least if you're doing just Thanksgiving drafts, actually probably is a draft pick for a few folks this week. I'm expecting in the range of 230, 240 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, which would be totally fine quarterback 1 numbers. The Bengals are choosing to start Joe Burrow. Doesn't mean we have to bench him from fantasy perspective. It's the Bengals making a stupid decision. We don't have to do that.
Looks like it'll also be the return of Jackson Dart, the concussion protocol. I talked to our Giants insider a little before this, Joe, and he was telling me that he expects that Dart will be in there. Nothing official yet. How does that change things at all in terms of people playing Jackson Dart? Obviously, he's been on the bench the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know you're a Giants fan. You might be one of the only people in the world that's actually looking forward to that Monday Night Football game. I don't actually understand why that hasn't been flexed. It's ridiculous that we have to sit through another absolutely awful Monday Night Football game. I really don't care. I actually think it actually hurts fantasy a little bit because Jameis Winston's been getting Wan'Dale Robinson so involved, and Darius Slayton at various points when Winston was the quarterback was awesome as well too. Patriots defense is pretty good. I just don't want Dart to get hurt. Like I would hope that Dart doesn't become a reckless runner again. I don't know how you really take that out of him, and that's my bigger concern for a guy that's been checked from a concussion protocol perspective 4 times this season already. If you're limiting Dart from being mobile, you're limiting his fantasy value pretty significantly, and there's just no way he can chuck the ball like Jameis Winston is. So I think it's actually a downgrade that Dart is available. Nobody should watch this game, thankfully, so we'll all kind of just find out Tuesday morning what happened with the Giants and Dart and things like that. But I would really hope for Dart's perspective that we see him run less, and if he runs less against this defense, he probably is not a quarterback 1 this week.
Joe, do we not just want to be entertained? I mean, I would argue that
I would. That's why I don't want them on Monday Night Football. I don't want Dart out there. This is ridiculous.
this weekend, the Giants and the Lions, from a fantasy perspective and from a viewer perspective, might have been one of the best games of this weekend. It's coming off of that game with famous Jameis that you're going to rip my team for playing on Monday night. Give us a break.
Of course, yeah, because Winston's playing. I would love it. I would feel much more interested if it was Winston playing, not Dart. Yes.
All right, let's get another injury. Add this to the Lamar Jackson fantasy owners. We found out this week that Lamar now has a toe injury. So he's hurt his knee, ankle, hamstring, and now toe, which is his 3rd ailment in 3 weeks and his 4th ailment on the season. And obviously the Ravens got the win. And, in real life, Ravens fans must be really excited. But for fantasy, Joe, this is not your grandma's Lamar Jackson here. So what the heck? How do you operate with that?
Yeah, I thought the child nursery rhyme was
pass catchers or anything. Yeah,
was head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and toes, not whatever Lamar Jackson's doing here with the lower body extremities. Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, I have a lot of Lamar Jackson, especially in Dynasty. This is, if you look at the RotoWire tool rest of season schedule, the Ravens passing attack is listed as number 1 the rest of the way. Like, if we're to say the quarterback and receivers that you want to have, it's Lamar Jackson near the top. You have Drake May near the top as well, too. Actually, Wan'Dale Robinson, the passing for the Giants is near the top, of the quarterback position's not, which is kind of funny to me. But, like, the Ravens supposedly should be in one of the best spots rest of season. And yet, if Lamar Jackson's limited to the point where he is like, hopefully what Jackson Dart will play Monday night and not running the ball all that much, this is a concern. Now, it shouldn't be a concern necessarily this week against the Bengals defense, which we know is historically one of the worst defenses of all time. They have looked better the past 2 weeks. Great. They're only 32nd defense this year, not worst of past 50 years. So, like, there's improvements in that regard. I think you still have to play Lamar Jackson. Marky Andrews is a guy that I'm playing and recommending just about everywhere. Bengals defense is historically especially bad against the tight end position, and I think he'll have a good week as well, too. And then Derrick Henry, I mean, he's not been able to run the ball very effectively. I think it's because Lamar Jackson hasn't been presenting the same issues with the read option for defenses. And if Derrick Henry can't get a massive game, I do wonder if this is going to be more of a slugfest on Thursday night.
I find it particularly fascinating that I'm sitting between 2 guys here. One who has CD Lamb, if I can get the right thumb, all right, and one who has George Pickens of the Cowboys, 1-1. Boy Green has Pickens, and Joe Bartel has Lamb. What's going on there, Joe? I mean, I thought CD was number 1. Right now, George Pickens is number 1. That Dallas offense is clicking.
Yeah, if you are the Eagles if you were playing the Eagles secondary, wherever your guy, Adoree Jackson's playing, you throw the ball at him every time, right? And I think that was kind of what happened. Quinion Mitchell was more or less on CeeDee Lamb for most of that game. Lamb had a few bad drops as well, too. The Cowboys offense is going to pass the ball to such a degree that I think they're both fine. But if you have one really good corner and one really bad former Giants corner, you want to target that other bad corner all the time. And am I wrong?
What is it? Take the Giants out to the woodshed day? What the heck did Giants do to you this week? Should I
Dory
take off my
Jackson.
hat? What's the problem here?
I play you this week. I'm trying to set the tone that my team cannot afford to fall over. I don't know what it is. I really despise that CeeDee Lamb can't get more involved, so I have to take it out on you, I guess.
Okay.
Because I sat through 4 weeks of injuries, and then George Pickens has emerged as this guy. I mean, like, I think that's truthfully where the Cowboys' offense has been, that they can run the ball pretty effectively, but they really only have 2 pass catchers, and whatever Jake Ferguson is, especially as a red zone threat. Okay, great. But if you have one really good corner, and this is going to be a perfect matchup this week with Isaiah McDuffie, who I think is, Isaiah McDuffie. Trent McDuffie, I was thinking Packers here. Trent McDuffie, corner for the Chiefs. I mean, like that's going to be another spot where I would probably put McDuffie on Lamb, and then Pickens gets to benefit. Now, it's not going to be I'm not trying to do the knock this time, but it's not going to be as easy of a matchup as what the Eagles will present this time around or what they did last week. But I would assume that Pickens gets a lot of volume again, and he's really good at using his body and then doing things after the catch. And you're like, well, why couldn't the Steelers do that? That's fair. I mean, I think that's why Pickens was so upset and why it was a tumultuous time with Pittsburgh, that you have Dak Prescott getting more comfortable with what Pickens can do. That's how you want offenses to be. Get your best players involved in situations that they can be best used. So I don't think it's going to be a rest of season thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if once again Pickens is the better receiver for the Cowboys this week.
All right, let me slip another one in here, and you tell me immediately if this isn't fantasy relevant. Shadur Sanders? He's QB1 last week for the Browns, and now he's going to be QB1 again. Is Shadur Sanders on the fantasy radar, Joe Bartel?
No, not at all. This is not fantasy relevant in any sort of way. In fact, Shador's one passing touchdown was 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Congratulations to Sanders for making a throw that all three of us on this call can make as well, too. So, no, and I think the Niners defense is going to be more present than what the Raiders is, even if they're missing guys. We saw it here Monday Night Football. Bryce Young lights up the Falcons 2 weeks ago for 440 yards passing. Predictably looks completely awful because he's not a very good quarterback. I think Shadur Sanders is worse than Bryce Young, so I'm expecting the Niners defense. Actually, I think they're one of the top pickups this week to go ahead and take advantage of Shadur Sanders. They're going to get a lot of sacks, if nothing else.
Oh boy. Very, very exciting. What about the streaming options out there, Joe? Again, a lot of people streaming defenses. Do you start looking forward at this point to what defensive matches up, especially for those teams that are getting ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, this is great. So we have week 13, every team is playing, but then week 14 on a bye, and a few teams, including yours, Lerch, here, that will matter crucially. It's possible that you won't be able to go ahead and have 2 defenses roster, but I do think now is the point where if you're in the fantasy postseason or planning for it, you can go ahead and look at some defenses. Jacksonville's rest of season schedule, really lucrative. The 49ers have one of the more comically easy schedules the entire year, really get to benefit here in the second half. And you can actually pick and choose, not that I ever want to jinx things, but you can kind of look at, okay, Jacksonville's got a great matchup week 16. I don't feel good about who they play week 17. Who can I go have defense that wise? And the way that the schedule is set for a few of these, and I think it would be Jacksonville, the Patriots are another one, and then the Niners. You can actually piecemeal basically a fantasy defense the rest of the way with just 2 of those 3. So I actually believe you're at a really good spot to go ahead and stream defenses. You can do that for quarterback as well, too. Like if you're like me, who has Baker Mayfield, one of my 15 injuries in this league that I'm going to have to deal with. Bo Nix is a pretty good schedule for the next 2 weeks. Commanders this week as well in particular. Otherwise, it's a little bit more bleak because the top end of the quarterbacks, the guys that we were drafting really early on, have good schedules to end the year, whereas your Tuas or Tyler Shucks or whatever your streaming quarterback is, they're in difficult spots and you can't project what they're going to do. So it's going to be really tough if you're trying to stream quarterback.
All right, let's give 2 shout-outs here. First off, you guys are watching this show wherever you're watching it, the Manchild Show Boy Green Digital, Boy Green 25 on YouTube or Twitter. Make sure you submit questions. Joe Bartel is here to answer your questions in the fantasy football universe here. Again, we're trying to get you early this week with all the Thanksgiving slate games and everything that we have on the docket. So keep submitting your questions, and we'll be getting to those here on the program. Let's start diving into some of those. Joseph here, happy Turkey Day week. Shout out to Matt from Auburn, who's trying to fight his way back. We'll get to his question first. Sure, why not? Looking to get back to the Triple C League. So, wide receiver, pick 3 of these names. Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, Wan'Dale Robinson, DJ Moore, Chris Olave.
And
Yeah,
how about Wandale this past
Uh-huh.
week, Joe? I mean, that came out of nowhere. I mean, we had a couple of big performances, but that one was certainly outside of the norm. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it's again Winston as opposed to Dart. Now that Dart can't make those throws, but Winston's just more interested in doing so, and I think that's going to be one of the catalysts as to why Wandale Robinson for us was, I think, the second ranked receiver rest of the way that you want to have for the fantasy playoffs. It's going to be counter to what you probably draft these guys, but for this question, I can't bench Stephon Diggs. I mean, the Giants secondary is equally bad. I have to have Stephon Diggs in there. I want to have Wandale Robinson the way that he's been playing right now and the way that the offense is using him, and I want to have Chris Olave too. These are all guys that have very solid floors, but have the ceiling potential to be really, I was going to say league winning, but game winning or week winning at least. And DJ Moore can score touchdowns, so that's an Eagles defense that's going to be pretty tricky. Maybe he gets a Dory Jackson, to our point a little bit earlier, but I don't want to bet on that. And DK Metcalf has just been unreliable, unfortunately, and that was one of my guys entering this year. So I think you're playing Stephon Diggs, Wandale Robinson, and Chris Olave.
All right, so there's your picks there, Matt. Good luck. Matt trying to climb. He has come from the champs all the way down to the Quad Cities and now going to try to make his way back. By the way, our good buddy, and he might be in here right now. If not, I'm sure he'll watch this video at some point. Bill the Produce Guy. Looks like he's headed to the Quad Cities, Boy Green. He is in last place right now in the Triple C with only 2 wins. Does not look like he could get out of the cellar. So, sad story. We can get into the Bill story later. All right. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Box Drop Syracuse. Let's just take 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about Box Drop while we're away here. Get in the comments, your questions, start, sit. No more trade stuff. I guess we're pretty much past the trade deadline. But anything you have in terms of lineup, playoff strategies, Joe Bartel's here. So let's take advantage of him for another 15 minutes. We'll be right back right after this. Considering that we sleep nearly 1/3 of our lives, buying the right mattress is essential. At Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofa Outlet, you'll get a unique experience, one that saves you 30 to 70% off retail prices on top-of-the-line mattresses like Sapphire Sleep. At Box Drop, you'll schedule a mattress fitting appointment and get one-on-one service directly with Paul, the owner. No middleman. Family-owned, huge savings, no-pressure sales designed to save you time and money. And now Box Drop Syracuse has sectional sofas and love seats as well, with prices designed to fit your budget. Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofas. Set up your appointment today at boxdropsyracuse.com. All right, we are back and talking all things fantasy football. It's our usual Friday live show, but we are here on a Tuesday. That's because we are in Thanksgiving week. So a lot of our guests flexing with us and moving forward in this week. Number one, because they have things to do for the holidays. And number two, of course, because we want to get your questions answered. And we want to get that content out to you before all these Thanksgiving Day games. Again, 3 games on Thanksgiving Day, another game on Friday, Black Friday, and then we'll get the full complement on Sunday, and then a Monday night game, which features my Giants. Joe doesn't like that too much. He won't be watching, but I will. Anyway, let's continue talking fantasy football. Joe, we do have a big matchup this week. Jamie, the FedEx guy, got you this past week. I see he's already in the comments. If you want to throw it up there, Boy Green, he's already commenting about it. Give me your thoughts about how the league has played out this year for you and about our big matchup this week. How important is this one to you?
I mean, I guess I'm sitting at 6-6, so that would be great if I could win. The projections have me pretty heavily favored, but you don't have Josh Jacobs in there yet, which is fine. I would assume because the projections have me favored, I'll lose by about 35 or 40, which has been what has happened most of the year. I mean, I think I have a pretty good team, but it's been really difficult with the injuries and pretty unlucky in certain matchups. Again, we had talked about that. I had 4 losses by combined 13 points. It'd be a little bit different if that's the case, but I don't know if, if circumstances will have me back in the draft next year. So I'm really happy that Jamie gets to have a playoff run here. He had talked about a couple of weeks ago where he'll come back from the bottom of the standings, get the point breaker tie in his favor, and he'll go ahead and win the whole thing. I think it's a battle of perseverance and a little bit of luck going his way. And I like rooting for those circumstances. I know Jamie cares a whole lot about it too. So, kudos to him. I'm hoping that he could take down the whole. I hope they can take down both of you guys, especially Boy Green. I need Boy Green to go ahead and take some losses from all the dumb trades that he's got. I think as long as Jamie gets Boy Green, it'll be good. It'll be a good year for me.
For next week, I'm going to bring a list. I was going to do it for this week. It just ran out of time. So I'll have extra time, and I'll have the holidays to put this together. I'm going to bring a list together I'm going to compile all the trades that were made in our Champs League this year, and we're going to rate them from worst to best. All right? And ones that just were inconsequential.
We're going to need 45 minutes.
But I just found out from my partner, I thought he had picked up Dak Prescott off the waiver wire. He actually made a trade, and that trade, Joe, was Rashad Bateman for Dak straight
Yeah,
up. That was
yeah.
the trade that got him Dak Prescott. Like, that is sickening. I said it to him the other day, and I hate to even say this or admit this, Joe, but I have won this league before. He has won this league before. In the years that I've won it, there always has been some luck involved. And I think that, things just need to go right late in the season. And unfortunately, it feels like things are going right for my partner here. Like, he's like Michael Wilson and this insane breakout, George Pickens suddenly becoming, a god in Dallas and getting more, balls thrown at him than CD Lamb is, Dak Prescott, of course, really, really finishing strong after a terrible start to the season. It just feels like it's going his way, Joe. And as much as I've had a good roster, and I know you've had a good roster, there are plenty of other people in this league that I think have pretty good rosters. It just feels like it's leaning towards this guy, which really irritates me.
I believe in karma.
Turn off the applause, you fools.
Yeah, I believe in karma. I do not believe Boy Green will get to roll the dice and come up snake eyes 15 times in a row. I think the 14th time will probably be an issue for him. And Michael Wilson's going to fall off when Marvin Harrison comes back. I mean, I've had that surgery before. I don't think Marvin Harrison plays this week. So great, one more week of Michael Wilson being a wide receiver 1 or 2 in that range, which is awesome. And then we'll go back down to obscurity a little bit further. So no, I have some confidence that Boy Green will end up choking at some point, and we'll have a rightful winner, whoever else it might be among the 6 playoff teams. So,
all right, yeah, there's the standings, Boy Green. You threw them up there, so it is me and Boy Green at the top. Joe, right now, just a little bit outside of the playoffs, but tied with some teams there. So definitely some big wins. Who do you have in the last regular season week, Joe? I know you have me this week. Do you know who you have the last?
No, I don't know.
Week? You don't know off the top of your head? Right, I'll look it up in a second. But interesting. Do you feel like you got to go 2-0 to get in the playoffs here, or you think you can 1-1 and you can find a way in?
Yeah, I think 2-0. I mean, I'm happy that
Courtney, by the way, is the last one. Courtney.
Okay.
I'm probably avoiding the bottom 3, which is, I guess, the goal every single time. So I think that when you miss Lamb, when you have Baker Mayfield banged up, I had Brock Purdy in there for a little while. I think I had multiple games where Brock Purdy was hurt and came, or I thought he was going to play and gets hurt. I mean, that's just how fantasy is. Only for my teams, not for Boy Green teams. So I'm hoping that that all comes to a head here in the playoffs when it hurts the most. That's the goal.
Who do you like, Joe, to win the whole thing in our league? If you had to guess it today, who would you say?
I guess I don't know the teams super well enough.
I know you're in a lot of leagues, right? Sure.
Yeah. I'm not like actively watching it. I thought that the both of you guys have attacked your depth more than I would have thought, like in trades that you've cut down on it. Like I was looking at your roster, Jim, and if Jacobs can't play, we're in a tough spot. And Xavier Worthy has to be a critical factor for you in the postseason. I don't feel good about that. Yep. I do think that George Pickens won't have 30-point fantasy games moving forward every week. I don't think Michael Wilson will as well too. And Boy Green is actively texting me every other day about some running back that I'm never going to give him. So like, I think there's issues with his roster too, but I don't know about, I think it's Big Al's team. I don't know about Big Al's team. And then Drake's team is a bunch of waiver wire guys that are kind of overperforming a little bit. I don't know if Drake's team could do that either. So, I mean,
feels like it's anybody's game, doesn't it? It really does.
Dare I say Jamie, who I really do like the way he had built his roster.
His team's not bad.
Dwight Schrute method, paperclip to the house. I want a championship for him.
Wow. Man.
Well, actually, I do want to follow up with one more guy.
Yeah,
it's definitely possible. One guy we didn't talk about, he is in 5th place in our league, America's Team. I want to ask about him, but more specifically the strategy in general here, Joe. And it's this: Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. Is he a league winning pick? Because we talked about this openly. I remember me, you, and Lerch were all at the bar, and I said, Christian McCaffrey is probably going to go between somewhere in 6 and 12 tonight. But if it hits right, you got the number 1 overall pick at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And boy, it looks like Brandon Clements got it right, and so did a lot of people out in the fantasy universe, Joe.
Yeah, literally leading the league in receptions. I thought, like, not just running backs, it's literally leading the league in receptions. And the way that 49ers offenses have had to make it through with injuries, you're going to have McCaffrey. So the one thing I'd be concerned with, you talk about the rest of season schedule for like the Niners and Jags and Patriots being comically easy. They should make the playoffs, yada, yada. That workload should not be something you're putting on your 29-year-old superstar running back when you have the postseason aspirations, and especially when you have a guy like Brian Robinson who could be literally the person who touches the ball and does at least the ball carrier aspect of that offense very heavily. That would be my major concern. I think for a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, for example, I know it scores 55 points. Person doesn't win with Jahmyr Gibbs this past week. The Lions are going to have to do that all year long, and they have a tough schedule, and they're going to be fighting for their postseason lives and certainly seeding stuff as well, too. You're going to have Gibbs be that part of a function. I don't know if McCaffrey is involved to that extent, or at least I wouldn't, But that doesn't mean the Niners won't, right? They've done basically dumb medical things for the past 2 years straight every single week. Maybe they'll have McCaffrey continue this workload, even though it makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, no question about it. Very, very true. Let's jump into some more comments here, Paul. Oh, I was going to say this to you, Joe, before we go to the comments. I said this to Boy Green on our live show the other day. It's so funny. I think if you drafted McCaffrey, which for most leagues was somewhere between 6 and 12 was my estimate. I think you somewhat agree with me on that, right? In the first round.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you either in the second or early third round drafted JSN, you're probably either leading your league or you're going to win your league because those two guys have been unbelievable. And that was an easy draft to get those two guys because it was logical that you could get those two guys.
You could probably have done Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. There will be leagues that have had that trio, and that could be one of the most potent 3 trio drafts, like first 3 picks of all time. I mean, that could literally. Whereas conversely, you could have taken like Brian Thomas Jr. I'm thinking about like Chase Brown, maybe the back end of the first round, early second, and then come back with Omarion Hampton. You've been really excited to get him back in the third round. Like that would have been really, really bad. And that requires basically none of those guys to be injured. I guess Hampton being the one that's out a little bit of time, but like it is really, really interesting. I kept talking about things that I want to learn for next year or remember for next year, one of which I will not draft any Buccaneers or 49ers players because I feel like we get yanked around so much with injury report stuff. But try not to overreact to some of the training camp news has always been something I'm a stickler on. And I think I still fell for it a little bit with Ricky Pearsall. I know he got injured earlier this year. We fell for it with Matthew Golden a little bit. But there are so many people, whether it be Travis Hunter or Travion Henderson in the 3rd or 4th round, right? Like that was a thing back in late August as well. That will be one of the really big missives that I try to have for next year is do not fall for the training camp hype early to mid to late August. Just go with what you had at the beginning of the season. I think you're going to probably be in a better spot because, for example, like you look at the receivers around that range, it would have been Tyreek Hill for Jackson Smith, Tyreek Hill, Marvin Harrison, Terry McLaurin, Lab McConkey, maybe would have been a little bit higher than that. A.J. Brown was definitely higher than that. Well, all those pass catchers, maybe outside of Lab McConkey, none of them were going to be the clear and obvious number one receiver for the Seahawks offense. Say what you want about if you thought Sam Darnold and the offensive line would be able to make this happen. JSN was going to be the guy, and sometimes just making it as easy as that is all you need to do.
All right, jump on over to the comments here. Big Al throwing this one down. He says, what teams are likely to take out their studs because they have no chance of the playoffs? Teams wanting to see what they have on the bench and not hurting their stars. Are there any targets out there, Joe, that could come into play here, especially once we get into the
Yeah, that's a good question, too. We always talk about rest of season schedule, guys you want to have, but I think trying to guess the division standings can be a super lucrative thing too if you're playing around the edges of your roster. I had made the argument on my SiriusXM show, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, Angel Fire Radio on Saturday. Saquon Barkley was one of the top trade targets for me at running back, but there's a very real scenario, and it got less real now after the loss of the Cowboys, but there was a real scenario where the Eagles by week 17 would be in no spot to win the number 1 seed, will have the NFC East already clinched, and therefore say, I mean, let's not risk things with Saquon Barkley. We have A.J. Dillon or whatever else is you have your Tank Bigsby's of the world. Do exactly what we did last year and have those backups be a bit more involved. There's no Saquon Barkley 2K chase anymore. Let's have him rushed. I mean, that's a real risk that you could have. So a guy like Tank Bigsby maybe is worth being rostered. I think the Patriots are going to be in the same spot. Now, they'll be competing with the Colts for one of the top seeds, but the Colts have a really difficult rest of the season schedule. So long as the Patriots beat the Bills, they're walking into the number 1 seed of the AFC, and you probably are resting Drake May in that scenario, or you're probably not getting a guy like Stephon Diggs who's a little bit older, has that the knee injury stuff involved. Like maybe Stephon Diggs isn't used as much. There's some. I think I would look more at the AFC side of things as opposed to the NFC, but I think there's some real concerns at the top of that for sure.
All right, last one out of the comments here, Joe. I'll jump into. It's from Jamie. He's talking about Brandon, who's America's team in our league, needs to win Week 13. He's got 4 49ers on a bye in Week 14, potential to miss the playoffs. Let's talk about that Week 14 bye.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the final week of the regular season. Why did they put a bye in that?
I hate it.
That's terrible for fantasy people. I'm lucky. All my guys are pretty much done. I have no consequential players that will be out week 14, but some teams might need it in the final week of the regular season to get in the playoffs or to move into first place, or to stay, or not to be relegated, and then you might have to be dealing with buys. That's not a good situation.
Hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I play in a league called the Scott Fish Bowl, which I would imagine a few of the listeners might have heard of already. It's basically a charity league, but we do a lot of the drafts, and I at least do them live, which is a lot of fun. But that really kickstarts draft season. Those are normally happening at the end of July, somewhere in that range. Their playoffs started last week. So think about that. Like, it's a week 12, the playoffs start. You have Jamar Chase on bye. I'm sorry, Jamar Chase suspended, for example, on top of all the buys. You have week 13 where everyone plays, but week 14 still in that range as well too, where teams aren't bye. It's super frustrating. I wish the NFL wouldn't do that. I understand why they don't put buys on Thanksgiving weekend, like for week 13, like that makes sense. But there's been multiple weeks with just 2 teams on bye. Could we smooth this out a little bit? And it does feel like, for a league that values fantasy football and has acknowledged how important it is to the overall interest of the sport, you could do us a bit of a favor and not have this happen in week 14. I'd love to have that smoothed out at some point, but it is definitely frustrating. I mean, obviously, if you have multiple players on bye week 14, you should be planning accordingly for it, but sometimes you might not have that option, right? If you're trying to just make it to the playoffs, if you're trying to get through all the injuries you have, it might be the only options you have, unfortunately.
Well, Joe, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for flexing your schedule here a little this week. I hope
Happy Thanksgiving, buddy.
Have a great Thanksgiving. Yeah. Thanks for spending some time with us, my friend.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me on. Of course, everyone eat enough pumpkin pie for me as well, too. But we'll hopefully be talking about good news, because I'll have beaten Lerch next week, and I'll be in a chance to make the playoffs. We'll have to see. But, happy Thanksgiving to everyone but Lerch, I guess I'll put it that way. And the Giants and Monday Night Football. Never have that happen again, please.
It'll be a battle, man. I got the 2 fantasy guys the last 2 weeks of the regular season, man. I drew the short straw. Good grief, man. I got to go fantasy. These guys will be on their A game for sure, as they're both battling for playoffs. Here's the bad thing, Joe. If you do beat me, you may be opening the door for the guy to my side, the other side of me here.
I'm opening the door for Jamie to beat him. That's the goal.
Place in the league for the regular season. He's liking that idea.
Jamie's going to save us. That's what I'm opening the door for. That's the goal.
Well, that'd be fine. If Jamie saves us, I'd be okay with that.
That would be the best thing. I think that's the best outcome possible. Yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching again our Fantasy Live. Again, this is normally on Fridays, so we will not obviously have a show on Fridays with Joe. And we will be back live again tomorrow morning at 11 for our usual Wednesday live show. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow at 11. Take care.